So, I just saw Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and yeah, I know I'm a little late to this party. The movie's been out for, 2 months now? But I finally got around to seeing it, and I wanted to talk about it because, honestly, there is a lot to say about this movie. But before I get into it, I guess I should say what I thought about the rest of the Shrek movies. First one, I think it's fine. I think it's alright. Not one of my favorite movies. I don't love it as much as a lot of other people do, but I acknowledge it's a solid movie. It's got some good jokes, good characters, some great voice acting. It's an overall solid time. Not one of my favorites, but I enjoy it. Now, Shrek 2, on the other hand, that movie is delightful. Very funny, very engaging, honestly pretty emotional, and a lot of fun. That is a great time. Shrek 3, I only saw part of it as a kid, and even then, I knew I didn't like it. Then, I know, big shock, nobody liked Shrek 3, and for good reason, it's not good. And I've never seen Shrek 4, also never seen the original Puss in Boots movie that came out, 10 years ago? I had no interest in it when it came out, and from what I've heard, it's pretty mediocre. But then, when this was announced, I know me and a lot of other people were kind of confused, why? There have been talks about them doing a fifth Shrek movie after all these years, but I don't think anyone expected them to do a second Puss in Boots movie. Again, after the first one was pretty mediocre, and I don't know how well it did at the box office, but I know it wasn't as big a hit as the mainline Shrek films. So people were definitely very confused, myself included. And then the movie came out, and it got amazing reviews, genuinely really good. I think it has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I just heard so many people saying this movie's actually really good, it's amazing, you gotta see it, and I finally got around to it, and yeah, I'll be damned, that was a pretty damn good movie. They definitely did not need to try this hard with a Puss in Boots sequel that came out 10 years after the first one, but my god, you can tell they put a lot of effort into this, and it really paid off. Both critically and I think commercially, because I think it's doing pretty well. It's not blowing up box office charts or anything, but I believe it was the second highest grossing animated movie of last year behind the Minions. And yeah, you can't really beat the Minions. But yeah, I definitely really enjoyed it. It was a very pleasant surprise. So the story of this is, Puss in Boots, from Shrek, he's back. It starts out with him, protecting this town from a monster, and he succeeds, but then, literally, right as he defeats the monster, he gets crushed by a giant bell and dies. But he's I'm okay, I'm a cat, I have 9 lives. But then, as he's talking with the doctor, he finds out that he's already died 8 times, so that means he's on his last life, and if he dies again, he's dead, he's gone. And at first he's I don't care about that, but then he does genuinely start to get worried, especially when this mysterious wolf, who, spoiler alert, is literally death. He's this world's equivalent of the Grim Reaper, and my god, he's genuinely intimidating in this movie. He's one of the coolest villains in any animated movie I've ever seen. The only other one I can think of that was, genuinely intimidating are, I guess, some of the older Disney ones, like Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, or Frollo from Hunchback, or other DreamWorks films like Lord Shen, the peacock from Kung Fu Panda 2. He's genuinely intimidating. When he shows up, you're oh crap, he's here. And so he decides to retire, and he goes to this crazy cat lady's house, which is structured like a retirement home. That is absolutely hilarious. But then, after he spends some time there, all of a sudden, Goldilocks and the 3 bears show up, and in this world, they're a crime family. The bears, took her in and raised her because she's an orphan, and they basically just do a bunch of crime stuff. Again, very creative. And they want Puss in Boots to help them because apparently there's this wishing star, and the first person to touch it will be granted 1 wish. Puss obviously hears about this and realizes he can wish to get his life back so he can be a daring adventurer and not have to worry about dying. But he also meets this little dog who's disguised as a cat, and this dog is easily the best character in the movie. He's just so funny, so stupid, so cute, and just so innocent. He gets a laugh constantly. I won't give it away, but he has later on, he's telling Puss, this backstory that's very dark and very tragic, but he tells it in such a way that it's actually kind of funny. He's easily my favorite character in the movie. So, it's Puss, him, and they also, this other cat who, Kitty Softpaws, I believe her name is, who I'm gonna assume was in the first Puss in Boots movie. I think she was, I'm not certain. Again, never saw it, but I'm just gonna assume she was in there. And the three of them decide to begrudgingly team up to go find the wishing star, while also dealing with Goldilocks and the Bears going for it, and also Jack Horner from, like, the nursery rhyme is also going after the star. And what I really like about this movie is it's somehow able to juggle three villains, but it handles them all really well because they all feel very distinct from each other. I mean, you have Goldilocks and the Three Bears are the very sympathetic villain, especially Goldilocks, who, I guess, I'll kind of give it away. She wants to use the wishing star to find her birth parents because, you know, she's an orphan, again. And, you know, yeah, you don't necessarily agree with her actions, but you can at least understand where she's coming from. And then you have Jack Horner, who is just so over-the-top, evil, and irredeemable, and he's hilarious. Almost every single one of his jokes work. Like, he has, like, this magic bag full of a bunch of stuff from other fairy tales, and one of them is Excalibur. He pulls it out, and it still has the rock on the end of it. And he's like, yeah, I couldn't get the rock off of it, but it still works well. Like, that might be my favorite joke in the movie. Like, that was hilarious. And there's also, at one point, he pulls out Jiminy Cricket from Pinocchio, who, you know, is trying to, like, guide him and be his conscience. And then at one point, I know this scene has been memed a lot, but he's literally like, oh my god, you're an irredeemable monster! And Jack just goes, yeah, you're realizing that now? And just flicks him away. Like, that is brilliant. That's one of the things this movie does so well, is it is way funnier than it has any right to be. So many of these jokes just hit bullseyes. It is so damn funny. And then, of course, you have Death, who, like I said before, is genuinely intimidating. And you do start to feel scared every time he shows up, because he has, like, this whistle, and when that happens, you're like, oh god. Yeah, but even then, Puss and Kitty are also very likable characters. Like, you can really see where both of them are coming from. And Kitty, in particular, her initial wish isn't revealed. But you do kind of start to figure it out as the movie goes on. And the other thing this movie does really well is the animation. Like, oh my god, this is one of the most beautiful-looking DreamWorks movies ever made. Possibly one of the most beautiful-looking animated movies ever made. The colors are so vibrant, and there are so many distinct landscapes and areas they go to, and they all look absolutely gorgeous. It looks amazing. And this movie also really goes hard with the action sequences. Like, if you watch this movie, you can tell it took clear inspiration from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, especially during the action scenes where, like, the frame rate kind of gets, like, jittery and stuff, but I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, if anything, that really helps add to the speed of the action sequences. They have so much energy to them, and they are all a blast to watch. It is so entertaining. It's really fun. But the movie also has a lot of heavy moments. I mean, again, it's essentially Puss in Boots trying not to die. Like, and there's one scene where, like, Death is literally chasing him down, and very realistically, he pretty much starts to have a panic attack. And then the little dog, Perito, as he calls him, just, like, comes up to him and just lays his head down on his lap, and that helps calm him down. Like, that, not only is that very realistic, it's adorable. Like, that is a genuinely very touching moment. Like I said before, you can tell these people really put a lot of effort into this movie. Like, this is clearly a passion project. This isn't just some cheap cash grab. This is something that they clearly wanted to make. Another really creative element of this movie is that they have this map that is supposed to lead to where the wishing star is, but the map isn't like a traditional map. It just has, like, words on it that give clues, and that leads them to this forest that literally transforms into completely different areas depending on who's holding the map. And that is brilliant. That is very creative. And, like, Puss gets a hold of the map at first, and it turns into, like, this, like, fiery, dangerous hellscape. And then Kitty gets a hold of it. It gets, like, all dark and gloomy. And then Perito gets hold of it, and it just becomes all cute and happy. And then both Puss and Kitty are like, okay, yeah, he should hold the map. Like, that is both funny and creative at the same time. This movie is really able to balance the funny moments, the emotional moments, and the action moments all at the same time. It's all at once. The ending of this movie I also thought was really interesting. I won't give it away specifically, but this was one of those movies where I honestly wasn't fully sure where it was gonna go. Is it gonna be he gets the wish? Is he gonna wish not get the wish but be okay with it? Is he gonna wish for something else? I honestly wasn't sure, but what they did with every character, with Puss, Kitty, Perito, Goldilocks, Jack, even Death, like, it's genuinely very creative and very emotional. Like, this was a really well done movie, and it is so much better than it has any right to be, and I'm honestly really glad to see people talking about it. I mean, this is the first time in a while, possibly ever, where I had just no interest in a movie, but I decided to go see it solely from word of mouth, and yeah, I'm really glad I watched it. I had a really fun time with this movie, and I know a lot of people seem to love it too. Like, I see a bunch of people saying they're hoping it wins the Oscar for Best Animated Picture this year, which, I don't know, I still think I prefer Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, but this is definitely a really good movie. I had a great time watching this, and honestly would highly recommend it. I know a lot of people will probably be like, oh, it's probably not that good. Just go for it, see it, I can guarantee you'll probably have a good time.